Thank you for checking out my video. I wanted to sit down and share a bit of my story, my testimony, as someone who grew up Baptist and is now a practicing Catholic, but from the perspective that I had a great experience both places. So what does that look like? Typically we hear from people who have not had such a great experience one place or the other and then they convert. Well, since I had a good experience both places, I feel like I'm able to come from the perspective that I see a lot of common ground. I see what we have in common. And of course, the main thing being the gospel. If we're not getting that right, then what's the point, right? Gospel, I was taught growing up, that literally means good news. So the good news of Jesus is that, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life. So I grew up understanding, we all struggle, we all fail, and our failures separate us from God, and we need a Savior. So Jesus came, and he died on the cross, and he conquered death, hell, and the grave. And since he did that, he can be our bridge back to God if we just put our faith in what he did. And to me, that's the gospel. And so I believed that as a child, 9 years old. I made a profession of faith that I believed that, and I was baptized and joined the church. Of course, then years later, I meet my husband, Sean, and he tells me he's Catholic. So I asked him, how does a Catholic believe that you get to heaven? What does the church teach on that? And he says, through faith in Jesus Christ, by the grace of God. And I was like, whoa, to me that didn't sound very Catholic, right? I always thought, the church is teaching people to earn grace through the sacraments. So I told him, that didn't sound very Catholic. And he assured me that was what he was taught growing up. He went to Catholic school. He'd been at Mass his whole life. And that was what he was taught as a practicing Catholic. And so I said, okay, but I'm still going to look into where we could maybe meet in the middle. Like, can we meet in the middle and be Lutheran or Methodist? Something like that, because I'm not convinced that Catholics are totally getting this gospel stuff right. And that's kind of important. And so I started looking into the Methodist church, the Lutheran church, things like that. Didn't feel led in any direction there. Always didn't feel quite right. And so then I wind up at Mass with him, with Sean for the first time. And lo and behold, comes time for the preaching, the homily, Catholics call it, or sermon. And the priest says, everybody has to come to a decision point where they give their lives to God. They trust in Jesus Christ and what he did on the cross to save us and bridge that gap between us and God. And I was floored. I was like, there's the gospel from a priest. And maybe Sean was right when he said he was taught that his whole life. And, then I had a decision to make. I need to look into the Catholic Church, what they teach, what they do, and is it for me? Because suddenly, after hearing the gospel proclaimed in a Roman Catholic church, my perspective changed. I said, oh, I get it. the church isn't teaching that the sacraments are how you earn grace. They're teaching that grace is a free gift from God. The sacraments are how you receive that gift. You say, yes, Lord, I do want that gift, and thank you, through participating in the sacraments. So my perspective completely changed, realizing that they were getting the gospel right. And then I started seeing a lot of beauty in the Catholic Church. So in observing Lent, in taking that time to get ready to celebrate Easter, and taking the time through what's called the Stations of the Cross to meditate and focus on what Jesus went through when he died on Calvary for us, the whole road there and everything he went through. It was beautiful, and it'll change your life to really meditate on some of these things that the Catholic Church has to offer. And so I felt led to be a practicing Catholic. And so I joined the Catholic Church. I went through the process called RCIA, Rite of Christian Initiation for Adults. And I went through my first communion and confirmation. And I can go at a later time, go through the sacraments and how I see things in common there too, if there's any interest there. But I mainly wanted to share that it's the same gospel. And if you ever hear of someone who has converted, please never assume they've walked away from what they were taught to believe or whatever, one way or the other. Because more than likely, if they've been taught right at one place or the other, and then they feel led to another church, it doesn't mean they've walked away from the gospel that they were taught from the beginning. It's just their practice of it looks a little different now, but it's the same gospel. And that is just what I wanted to share, and I hope that's able to be understood, and I hope it helps anybody that might have questions. Of course, I'm not an expert on either the Baptist or Catholic Church. I'm just an expert on my experience, and that I experience the gospel both places. And I'm open to any questions. If anybody wants to shoot any questions my way, if I'm able to answer them, I'll be glad to do that. And I thank you for checking out my video. Bye.